In the last class, we looked at the structure of a basic paragraph and elements which make a paragraph effective. Moving on, today we will look at how we can move from a paragraph to a full length text. A full length text, an essay say, has a structure which is very similar to that of a paragraph. As you know, an essay is a piece of writing which has several paragraphs. It is about one topic, just like a paragraph is. So, recall here, yesterday we discussed that a good paragraph talks about one and only one topic. So, similarly, an essay is about only one main topic. However, because the topic sometimes is too complex to be discussed in one paragraph, that matter is discussed in several paragraphs in an essay. Usually, one paragraph each for one major point. That is how we go about it. Then we tie up the paragraphs using several strategies and techniques, so that they do not appear as standalone paragraphs, but as a single coherent text. Writing an essay, once you have mastered writing a good paragraph, should not be an issue, because the structure is very similar. The principles of organization are the same for both. So, if you can write a well structured paragraph, you can write a well structured essay as well. Now, let us look at this structure. Okay. So, if you look at this diagram, you can see that how the structures of a paragraph and that of an essay are very similar in nature. Here you can see that this is the basic structure of a paragraph, and you can recall it from discussion from the previous class, and this refers to structure of an essay. So, a paragraph typically has topic sentence, which includes the main idea of the paragraph, and the rest of the paragraph includes supporting details. Sometimes you may also find a concluding sentence if it is a standalone paragraph. Now, if you expand it to a full length text, the topic sentence sometimes may get into the form of an introductory paragraph. So, what exactly happens in an introductory paragraph? We are going to see it very soon. Supporting details, they get expanded into several paragraphs in the body of the essay. So, you have one sub detail that becomes one paragraph, second sub detail becomes second paragraph. So, needless to say, each paragraph again has a very similar structure: topic sentence followed by supporting details or expansion of the main idea, and then the conclusion. Concluding sentence of a paragraph is usually very similar to concluding paragraph of an essay, where you sum up things and you bring the discussion to conclusion. So, therefore, structure of a paragraph and structure of an essay, they are very similar. So, moving on, as we saw, an essay typically has three main parts: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So, usually introduction is only one paragraph and conclusion is also usually a single paragraph, whereas body usually contains more than one paragraph at least. If it is a very long text, it may have several paragraphs. In fact, let us now look at these three sections of a typical essay, that is introductory paragraph, body and concluding paragraph in detail. So, we start with the introductory paragraph. So, usually an essay introduction has two parts. There are usually few general statements and then the what we call a thesis statement. So, what is the purpose of these general statements? They are there to attract attention of your readers. You want them to keep on reading the rest of your essay. So, you introduce the topic and you try to attract your readers' attention, and then you have thesis statement, which is like the main idea of the essay. This is very similar to a topic sentence of a paragraph. So, it names the specific topic and gives the reader a general idea of the contents of the essay. So, it gives some clues about what you expect from the rest of the essay. So, as mentioned, an introductory paragraph has two parts. So, some general statements and then the thesis statement. So, these general statements introduce the general topic of the essay. So, they start from the widest range possible and they aim to capture the reader's interest. The thesis statement, on the other hand, it states the specific topic. So, here you are moving from very general to specific. We will look at an example and then it becomes clear. The thesis statement may also list subtopics or subdivisions of the main topic or subtopics. So, what are the areas going to be covered, what aspects are going to be discussed. So, that may be included in the thesis statement. It may also indicate the pattern of organization of the essay. So, is it going to be chronological, cause effect, what kind of a pattern the rest of the essay is going to follow. So, usually the thesis statement is the last sentence in the introductory paragraph, so that it connects to the next 2-3 paragraphs very easily. Sometimes a thesis statement also indicates the pattern of organization that the essay will follow. Okay. So, how? Let us look at some examples. So, here are some thesis statements. So, let us read these carefully and then decide which one indicates chronological order, which one a logical division of ideas and which one comparison and contrast. Let us read the thesis statements first. When buying a used car, use these 4 strategies to get the best price. So, this is one. So, if you look at this thesis statement, you can expect that the essay is about buying a used car. Specifically, it is going to talk about some strategies to get the best price. So, as it is clear from this, the essay is going to talk about 4 strategies. So, you can say that this is logical division of ideas. So, there are strategies you have to follow to buy used car. So, you have divided them into 4. So, it is logical division of ideas. Let us look at the second one. There are several differences between a nurse practitioner and a physician's assistant. So, the keyword here is differences. So, now you expect that the rest of the essay is going to talk about characteristics which distinguish these two professions, a nurse practitioner and a physician's assistant. So, the pattern here is comparison, contrast. Let us look at the third one. My best friend and I spent an entire summer constructing a tree house in my grandmother's old apple tree. So, here the clues are, you have past tense, spent, and it includes a reference to some personal details. So, you can expect it is going to be a personal narrative. So, of a particular incident. What incident here? This is constructing a tree house in an old apple tree. So, obviously, the pattern here is going to be chronological. So, you are going to start with the oldest incident and then move on to the other incidents which follow that one. So, this is how a thesis statement can clearly indicate the order, the logical pattern of the rest of the essay. Now, let us look at a sample introductory paragraph. Okay. This paragraph is about Native American contributions. So, let us read this. Did you know that Native Americans have contributed many things to the American way of life today? Things that you use or do now, many Native Americans have been using and doing for many years. Many times, the only thing people remember about Native Americans are the negative things, but they contribute many positive things and should be remembered for them. A lot of time we only think about things we can readily identify as representing Native Americans, such as their fine art work. Yes, the people of the Southwest are known for their beautiful silver and turquoise jewelry. The people of the Northwest coast are known for their fantastic wood carvings. The Plains Indians are well known for their beautiful bead work. But other than art, the Native Americans have influenced many areas of American living. Some of these things were begun long before the arrival of the European settlers on North American land. So, as you can see, this introductory paragraph starts with some general statement, some general remarks. The main idea here is to gather, to attract the attention of the readers. So, the beginning is actually quite dramatic. It starts with a rhetoric question and then it moves on to things which people are generally aware of, and from there it moves on to the specific topic of the essay, and keyword here is this contrasting linker but. So, many things are there which are very familiar to many people, but there are several other things which many people do not know, and these things are very crucial. So, that is the point here. So, did you know that Native Americans have contributed many things to the American way of life today? Things that you use or do now, many Native Americans have been using and doing for many years. So, by just reading it, you naturally get curious, and then it comes to talk about artwork, because many people know Native Americans because of their fine artwork. So, this introductory paragraph acknowledges it, but then it says there is something more than that. So, the thesis statement here is in bold. So, you can say that. So, this part, some of these things were begun long before the arrival of the European settlers on North American land. So, what were these? Other than art, Native Americans have influenced many areas of American living. So, that is the thesis statement. So, now, so what do you think is going to be there in the rest of the essay? So, obviously, the essay is about Native American contributions. So, in particular, so what is it going to be about? It is definitely not going to be about art, because it has said there are many other areas also. So, that is one crucial point there. And another important point is some of these things were begun long before the arrival. So, these are not relatively new, these are quite old. So, these two things are very important part here. So, this is how you can start your essay. You start with some very general remarks, and then you come to your specific thesis statement, and you also indicate what is going to come in the rest of the essay. Okay. So, moving on. Now, here is a list of sentences. These are jumbled. So, if you read them carefully and put them in the correct order, you will have an introductory paragraph of an essay. So, let us first read the sentences, find out what the topic is about, and then we will organize them. If done properly, a handshake gives the impression of strength and honesty, and if done improperly, it conveys weakness and dishonesty. In some cultures, people bow, and in others, they shake hands. In English speaking countries, shaking hands is the custom. A proper handshake has 4 ingredients: pressure, palms, eye contact, and verbal message. The way people greet each other when they meet for the first time varies from culture to culture. How one shakes hands sends an important message about one's character. So, now that we have read, we now know that this is something about how people greet each other when they meet. So, that is mentioned here. Then you find this reference to people bowing, then it talks about shaking hands. Then if you look at these sentences carefully, handshake appears in couple of sentences. So, probably the essay is going to be about this shaking hands. So, remember the principle, we start with very general and then we move to specific. So, out of this, which one is the most general, which introduces very broad topic? So, that would be E. The way people greet each other when they meet for the first time varies from culture to culture. So, you are starting with very broad topic. So, how people meet, and you have also introduced different cultures and variations here. So, this is a very broad topic. Okay. And from there you have to now narrow it down one step further. So, culture, then you link it to B. In some cultures people bow and in others they shake hands. So, from too many options you have narrowed it down to 2 things here, bowing and shaking hands. So, that is the second sentence. And then what? So, once from very broad options, you have narrowed it down to two things, people bowing and people shaking hands. Okay. And then, so now we zero in on shaking hands. So, now you have something about character here, strength and honesty, weakness, dishonesty, then there is another sentence which talks about this. So, now next sentence would be this: how one shakes hands sends an important message about one's character. Then how does it send a message? If done properly, a handshake gives the impression of strength and honesty, and if done improperly, it conveys weakness and dishonesty. So, you are now talking about some qualities of shaking hands. What are these? So, we have narrowed it down to two options, people bowing and then shaking hands, so cultures, and then further we narrow it down to shaking hands. So, that is C, in English speaking countries shaking hands is the custom. So, you have from too many options, you have now narrowed it down finally to shaking hands. Now, about shaking hands. So, you see that sentence F here talks about handshakes sending an important message about one's character, and then A also gives some details. So, these two must be related. So, first F comes, how one shakes hand sends an important message about one's character. How does it send? So, if done properly, a handshake gives the impression of strength and honesty, and if done improperly, it conveys weakness and dishonesty. So, this is about the details of this thing, and so it mentions a proper handshake. So, what is a proper handshake? So, that comes here D. A proper handshake has 4 ingredients: pressure, palms, eye contact and verbal message. So, this is where the introductory paragraph ends. So, here you can see that it has narrowed down from very broad range, and then it also indicates the logical division of the ideas. So, the rest of the essay probably is going to talk about these 4 aspects in detail. So, this is how an introductory paragraph gives indication about the structure of the rest of the essay, and clearly also makes readers read the rest of the essay with lot of attention. So, moving on, the next part is what we call body of an essay. So, the body consists of one or more paragraphs. Each paragraph, as we have noted earlier, develops a subdivision of the topic. So, the number of paragraphs in the body will vary with the number of subdivisions of subtopics. For example, going back to this, so there are 4 points. So, ideally there will be 4 paragraphs in the body. So, this is how the idea is subdivided and is taken up for discussion in the body of the essay. So, the body paragraphs in an essay are like the supporting sentences in a paragraph. So, in a paragraph you first make your main idea very clear, it is usually captured in the topic sentence, and then the rest of the paragraphs gives details about it, elaborating on it. So, you may have examples, some illustrations, elaboration, many other kinds of tactics you use there. So, similarly, your introductory paragraph has introduced the topic and has made the thesis statement. So, that thesis statement is elaborated in the body of the essay. So, they are very similar to supporting sentences in a paragraph. So, body is the place where you develop your topic and prove your points. So, you organize body according to some pattern, for example, chronological order, comparison, contrast, or logical division of ideas and so on. Sometimes depending on your topic, you may have to use a combination of strategies. Say here, if we go back to this, so here there are 4 points. So, the writer is going to use logical division of ideas. Why in this particular order? Probably it reflects the relative importance of each of these points from the author's perspective. Say you are presenting an argument and you are presenting evidence for your argument in the body of the essay. So, the arguments you are going to present probably are according to their strength or the conviction with which you present them. So, the body of the paragraph, so as we saw, has a very clear pattern. So, some patterns which are commonly used are narration, description, process analysis, analogy, causes and effects, comparison and contrast, classification, exemplification. These are just a few organizational patterns listed here, and you may also have to use a combination of these according to your needs. We will discuss some of these things in detail during this lecture series later on. Now, a basic pattern for essays is logical division of ideas. So, in this pattern, you divide your topic into subtopics and then discuss each one in a separate paragraph. So, logical division is an appropriate pattern for explaining causes, reasons, types, lands, qualities, methods, advantages, disadvantages, and so on. We have seen in the previous example about buying a used car. So, strategies, 4 strategies, or the example of the introductory paragraph we saw, 4 ingredients of a proper handshake. Say then you are talking about 4 effects of global warming on food production. So, there again you are talking about logical division of ideas. What are the advantages of online transaction? Say then again it is you are talking about logical division of ideas. So, types of students we find in a class. So, here again it is about a logical division of ideas. So, this is the used technique. So, in body there are many paragraphs as we saw, and the crucial thing is to link these paragraphs. It helps your reader to see how these subtopics are related with one another and also with the main idea. You can usually link these paragraphs by adding a transition to the topic sentence of the previous paragraph, or it could also be achieved. We discussed in one of the previous classes what we call coherence, connection at the idea level. The transition may be a single word, a phrase, or a clause that repeats or summarizes the main idea in the preceding paragraph. So, now we will look at an example. So, this text we just saw the introductory paragraph of this text, the text about contributions of Native Americans. So, you can see that the body here has several paragraphs, about 8-9 paragraphs, and each of these paragraphs starts with this rhetorical question. As we observed when we were looking at the introductory paragraph, the main purpose here is to focus on the contributions of Native Americans and gather the attention of readers. So, this paragraph here, for example, talks about Native American contributions to ecology, and then this to foods, then this to games, then this is to politics, the form of US government. It says is inspired by the form of government of the Native Americans, and so on. So, why this first paragraph in the body is about ecology and then other things? Here again probably the writer thinks this is the most important aspect which needs attention, and then the other things are listed. If you look at the rest of the essay, then it also talks about contributions to language, then contribution to wars, and so on. So, first topic, subtopic here is contributions to ecology. So, as I mentioned, probably they think this is the most important, and then the other things come. So, this is how you introduced something, you have introduced something in the introductory paragraph and you develop it further in the body. Of course, here the structure is slightly, you can say, loose. The connections across paragraphs is not very evident, but in some other text this connection becomes very clear. So, we will look at another text. So, this is how weather has changed world history. This text, if you recall, we have looked at in detail when we were looking at reading for detailed understanding. Now, let us look at the text in terms of introductory paragraph, body paragraphs, and how the connections are established among them. So, if you look at the introductory paragraph here, so this again starts with a very broad notion. It is tempting and often comforting to think that humans control their fates. So, from there it comes down to weather as one of the factors, which is beyond people's control, and then it further narrows down. It comes down to world history and how weather has influenced it. So, it again starts from very general and comes to very specific. So, this you can say is the thesis statement. Weather has in fact caused world history to radically shift in important ways that are still felt today. So, this is the thesis statement, and now you expect that the body paragraphs will develop this idea, how world history has changed because of weather. So, there are 3 body paragraphs. In fact, you can here very clearly see that there is a very strong connection among these paragraphs. This the first paragraph in the body, this gives an instance of Kublai Khan, 13th century, Mongol Empire. Then this paragraph is America's Revolutionary War, 1775, and then this is Napoleon Bonaparte, European context, and early 19th century. So, geographically and even time wise, these examples are spread out. So, here the connection across these paragraphs comes because of what we call coherence. So, we know that all these examples are related to the main idea that how world history has been influenced by weather. So, that thread holds these examples together. So, now we go back. The concluding paragraph. So, the conclusion in an essay is just like the concluding sentence in a paragraph. So, it is usually summary or review of the main points discussed in the body. Conclusion in the final paragraph usually has three purposes. It signals the end of the essay. To do so, you can start with a transition signal, something like in conclusion. So, this hints that your essay is going to end. It reminds your reader of your main points. So, in order to do so, you can summarize your subtopics or you paraphrase your thesis. So, you have discussed several topics, you summarize the discussion in just a sentence or two, or you can also reword your thesis statement, which you have already mentioned in your introductory paragraph. So, you are going to repeat it, but not exactly, you are going to use different words. So, this is actually paraphrasing of the thesis statement. So, if you are writing an argumentative essay, then this concluding paragraph is very important. This is where you can leave a very strong impression on your readers. So, this is where you can re-emphasize your stance, and this is your last opportunity to persuade your readers. So, you have to structure your conclusion very carefully. So, usually we can do couple of things, we can follow couple of strategies in the concluding paragraph. We are going to look at some examples here. Here the essay is on college education, the increasing expenses. So, how you can write a concluding paragraph for this essay? So, one way is you can make a prediction. So, let us look at this example. We have seen how the costs of attending college have been rising, while at the same time sources of financial aid for students have been disappearing. If this trend continues, fewer and fewer families will be able to send their children through 4 years of college. So, very clearly you are making a prediction here about what is going to happen in the future based on the current scenario. So, it is assumed in the rest of the essay you have discussed the current scenario in detail, and so you have a logical base to make this prediction. So, note here, without any logical base, if you just make, this does not stand. So, it is assumed the body of your essay has dealt with this topic in detail. You can also suggest results, some consequences. Let us look at this example. To sum up, the costs of attending college are up and financial aid for students is down. Fewer and fewer future members of the workforce are able to educate themselves beyond high school. As a result, the nation will waste the intelligence, imagination and energy of a large segment of the present college age generation. So, here you are talking about the consequences. So, what is going to happen because of this current trend? So, look at here, to sum up. So, this is your indicator, your signpost that you have come to the end of your essay. Here you have summed up your discussion in the body of the essay, and then on the basis of that you are here discussing consequences. So, nation will waste intelligence and so on. So, you are talking about here consequences. Another possibility is you can suggest a solution, make a recommendation or call for action. So, here the topic is the same, increasing cost of college education. Let us look at this. It is clear that the US system of higher education is in trouble. For many students, 4 years of college is no longer possible because of increasing costs and decreasing financial aid. To reverse this trend, we must demand that government increase its financial support of colleges and universities and restore financial aid programs. Our future depends on it. So, the writer here is making a very strong recommendation. So, we must demand. So, it is quite a strong recommendation, and why? There is a reason also. So, these two here clearly indicate that this sentence indicates that the lot of discussion has happened. So, on the basis of that, the writer here is making a recommendation. Now, let us go back to our text on how weather has influenced history and look at its concluding paragraph. So, just a quick recap. So, the introductory paragraph here talks about the weather has caused world history to radically shift. So, that is the thesis statement, and then the body of the paragraph gives several instances to prove this, that world history has changed because of the weather. So, this connection at the idea level, the coherence holds together these paragraphs. These are all connected. There is a chronological progression. So, this is the earliest one, and then say this is 13th century, this is 18th century, and then this is 19th century. There is chronological progression. And now, the concluding paragraph. So, you can see here. So, this is the concluding paragraph of this essay. So, let us read it in detail. As these 3 examples unambiguously demonstrate, the weather has caused numerous huge shifts in world history as well as in power balances among cultures and nations. Without the rainy storms of the monsoon season, Japan might be the eastern outpost of Mongolia. Without the appearance of dense fog, the United States might still be a territory of the United Kingdom, and without winter snow, Muscovites might speak French. Today, weather forecasters can usually predict with a high degree of accuracy when thunderstorms, hurricanes, tsunamis and tornadoes will strike. But the course of history cannot be fully isolated from the effects of weather. So, what does this concluding paragraph do? So, first it refers back to 3 examples discussed in the body of the essay. So, this is a kind of a brief summing up of discussion. So, as these 3 examples weather has caused this thing, this in fact is paraphrase of thesis statement. The weather has caused numerous huge shifts in world history as well as in power balances among cultures and nations. So, I am going back to the introductory paragraph. So, you can see here, this is the thesis statement. The weather in fact has called world history to radically shift in important ways that are still felt today. So, reiteration of the same idea, but in different words. And now, look at this. Without the rainy storms of the monsoon season, Japan might be this. Without the appearance of fog, United States might be still this, and without the winter snow, what could have happened with Muscovites. So, these again are which have already been discussed in the body of the essay. So, this is a kind of summing up of the discussion. So, you can see here the entire paragraph length matter has been summed up in sentences, in a sentence here. And the last sentence, today weather forecasters can usually predict, but the course of history cannot be fully isolated from the effects of the weather. So, this actually kind of makes a statement prediction about the future. So, the examples discussed are all from history. So, what is going to happen now or in the near future at least. So, according to the writer, the effect of the the effect of the weather is going to be felt on history still. So, in spite of advancements in science and weather forecasting. So, this is how here this concluding paragraph sums up the previous discussion, paraphrases the thesis statement and also makes a prediction about the future. Many people usually think concluding paragraph, you just need to write something to conclude your essay. Similarly, introductory paragraph, people think you just say a few things which may not be directly related to your topic, the topic of the essay. But as we have seen from the examples, that is not clearly the case. Introductory paragraph and the concluding paragraph have definite roles to play. Of course, when we are writing an essay on a topic, we have the matter and that is expanded in the body of the essay. So, that is less of a problem, but we need to think more carefully about introductory paragraph and the concluding paragraph. So, as we saw in today's class, in the introductory paragraph, you start with a very broad topic, very general, and then you move on to very specific, that is what is related to the topic, and you end your concluding paragraph with the thesis statement. It means you are very clear about what you are going to say in the rest of the essay and you make it clear there. So, this actually serves two purposes. One, it is a kind of anchor, just like the topic sentence is for a paragraph. If you articulate your thesis statement very clearly in the very beginning, it actually guides you. So, what you have to do for the rest of the essay, and it also helps your readers to expect things from the rest of the essay and also gives them some idea about the structure of the essay. So, introductory paragraph very crucial. Similarly, the concluding paragraph, usually what happens, we start writing, we run out of time, and so there is no time to write a concluding paragraph, but that is not the case. As we saw in these examples, particularly if it is an argumentative essay, a concluding paragraph is very crucial. It reiterates your position and it is the last chance to make your point. So, you have to convince your readers, you have to make your argument very strong. So, that is what we do in a concluding paragraph. You can also make predictions about something, you suggest a solution. Of course, it depends on the topic. Say for example, your essay is on effects of global warming. So, you have discussed the effects in the body of the essay, and in the concluding paragraph you can make some suggestions about how to overcome those effects. So, there are some possibilities regarding how you can go about the concluding paragraph, but that again you have to think very carefully about it. You paraphrase your thesis statement again and sum up the main discussion and you conclude your essay. Of course, the body has more than one paragraph. Sometimes if it is a short essay, it can just have one paragraph. So, here again you need to develop the paragraphs very carefully, establishing links. So, you follow one of the organizational patterns like illustration, cause effect, or logical division of ideas. So, following those strategies, you develop the body paragraphs. So, each body paragraph starts with your topic sentence, and that is explained in the rest of the paragraph. You tie up the paragraphs using explicit linkers or through implicit connection at the idea level. So, this is how you develop your essay. So, today we looked at how you move from a basic paragraph to a basic essay. We saw that the structure is very similar between a paragraph and an essay. A paragraph has topic sentence, the main idea, then supporting details, and sometimes a concluding sentence if it is a standalone paragraph. Similarly, an essay has an introductory paragraph, body, and conclusion. So, introductory paragraph is, you can say, very similar to topic sentence. The supporting details get reflected in body of the essay. Concluding sentence in a paragraph is like your concluding paragraph in an essay. Thank you.